Hello students, welcome to Royal Palace Pew College Jamkhandi online classes. My name is Sanjay sir and I'll be teaching you biology. Today we will be discussing about another topic of ecology, and that is environment. To begin this topic, we need to understand something. Earth is nothing but a collection of all those variety of organisms and their different lifestyles, and the study of it is this chapter called as ecology. Now, if we say simply as organisms, it does not fulfill the statement of organisms. This organism category should have to do two kind of things for its lifetime. The first category is of that it needs to survive in this crazy environment wherein which variety of situations are there, climatic situations, weather conditions are there. And in these situations, these organisms should have to survive. That is the first condition, whatever or immaterial of the situation it may be. And the second condition is that it needs to reproduce. Reproduction is a category wherein which the organism gives birth to another organism which is similar to itself. Of course, it needs to continue its life and chain wherein which it transfers its own genetic characters to the next offsprings that we studied in the genetics chapter. Now, these organisms, for their survival and reproduction, they are highly influenced by some of the factors including biotic and abiotic factors. Biotic means that it is connected with another organism, it is connected with the similar organism, it is connected with the higher or lower trophic level organisms, it is interacting for its survival. And of course the abiotic factor too. What is that abiotic factor? I told you, a factor which does not have any life, but it makes a higher impact on the survival of other organisms or all the organisms, such as sunlight, such as water, such as temperature, soil, etc., etc. Without the influence of these biotic and abiotic factors, the organism can never survive and the organism can never reproduce. So, for the organism's survival and reproduction, these biotic and abiotic factors are too much influential. Now, if you combine or the sum of these biotic and abiotic factors which influence the organism's survival and reproduction is called as environment. Now, this environment is dependent on two factors. Factor number one, atmosphere, and factor number two, weather. If you consider Earth or any other planet, all these planets, especially the Earth, since we know a lot about Earth, we can say that Earth is surrounded by a lot of gases to it. Some of these gases are useful to us, some of the gases are harmful to us, but this Earth has got its own envelope of different gases surrounding to it. You can consider oxygen, carbon dioxide, you can consider sulfur, nitrogen, etc., etc. All these gases surround the Earth like an envelope, and the envelope of these gases surrounding the Earth is called as the atmosphere. The atmospheric conditions depend upon another factor or are represented by another factor called as weather. It is a state of atmosphere at a particular place and time, regards heat, cloudiness, dryness, sunshine, wind, rain, etc., etc. So these are the factors which happen in our own Earth, and these are nothing but the weather conditions, and these weather conditions are somewhere connected or somehow connected or in other way connected or influenced or somewhere represented by the word called as atmosphere, which is nothing but the envelope of gases surrounding the earth. So these weather conditions are not today's condition or tomorrow's conditions. It will be taking for a longer period of time, whether this place has got higher temperature conditions or lower temperature conditions. So in these regions wherein which we see different precipitation conditions or temperature conditions, okay, precipitation is nothing but the rain and snow. So all the places are different, that we know already, right? So here, if we start considering for a longer period of times, what is the situation of temperature of that particular region, what is the situation of precipitation of that particular region, what is the situation of the concentration of the soil conditions, such that the pH of a soil, mineral content of a soil, etc., etc. All these come in a statistical way. If we start writing in a statistical way, in a data analytical way, then this word is called as the climate. So I discussed 2 to 3 words here, the first one being as the atmosphere, and the second one being as the weather, and the third one being as the climate. These two continuous factors are connected to environment. So let me repeat. Atmosphere is nothing but the envelope of gases surrounding the earth. Now these gases once again highly influence the growth and development of variety of organisms in this planet. Now all the places of earth are not similar in shape, size or topography, not at all similar in different variety of conditions such as the precipitation, rain, humidity, soil conditions, etc., etc. And this particular state of atmosphere is called as the weather. And these weather conditions, if we start collecting the data for a longer period of time of a particular geographical area, this is called as the climate. And all these factors include the definition of the environment, which is nothing but the sum total of biotic and abiotic factors which influence an organism's survival and reproduction is called as environment. Now we need to face 2 questions here. Question number 1, what kind of seasons do you find, or why the seasons are created? Interesting question. And question number 2, why different biomes been created? Let us answer for the question number 1, that is why the different seasons got created. If I start listing the different seasons in our planet Earth, it is nothing but a season containing only 3 factors or 3 seasons here. The first season will be the summer season, second one a winter season, and the third one a rainy season. Why actually these seasons are being created? We need to follow 2 steps here, 2 points here, and those 2 points are the first one. So remember the sun, and the sun is surrounded by a lot of planets to him, and these planets have got a tendency of rotation. Let us consider only with respect to Earth now. Now Earth has got a tendency of tilting in its own axis. So when it rotates in its own axis, from start to end, it creates a day, and generally it takes 24 hours, and it is not at all stopping itself after one rotation. While rotating itself in its own axis, it is even rotating the sun also. So when it starts from its position and starts rotating in its own axis and continues to rotate around the sun, from start to end it takes 365 days more or less, or similar way. That concludes a year. So because of these movements wherein which around the sun creates different seasons in the planet Earth. So if someone asks you a question that why different seasons got created in the planet Earth, you can easily say that it is because of 2 points. Point number 1, that the Earth is tilting in its own axis, or the Earth is rotating in its own axis, and the second one being the Earth is even rotating the sun also. Very easy, right? So if we go for another question called as why the different biomes had been created, what is the reason? So before why, let me tell you what are the different biomes present in planet Earth. Point number 1, we have got a tundra. If we take an example, a tundra, a rainforest, a grassland, a tropical forest, a desert, all these are different biomes. As I explained in my previous video, wherein which I told you that biomes are of different types. Biomes do not have the same weather conditions. biome do not have the same atmospheric conditions. One biome might contain a lot of different ecosystems, and these ecosystems once again do not have the same weather conditions. And the question comes, why these biomes are getting created? The answer is very simple. In these biomes, if we take the annual, in these biomes, if we consider for 365 days, the quantity and intensity of the temperature, the quantity and intensity and duration of the precipitation is not at all same. It keeps on changing. It is not at all same. In all these 365 days, we don't have the same kind of temperature every day. It might change. It might be there for some period of time, but after that it changes. So in all the places of earth, we do not see the same kind of weather conditions. Someday it might be hotter and someday it might be colder. We don't know. So these conditions were in which, if we consider for 365 days or 1 year, if we take an average of it, if we take a mean of it, we can consider that the average mean temperature and intensity of precipitation, the quantity of precipitation is not at all same. So as I was telling you that if we consider 365 days of planet Earth, of different regions of this planet Earth, we don't see same kind of temperature and the rain conditions. So we have to remember and we have to understand these 2 points, wherein which the annual mean temperature is not same and the annual mean precipitation is not at all same. So that's why different biomes had been and will be creating in this planet Earth. So I started my explanation by telling you why the different seasons got created, and I told you it is because of the rotation of Earth in its own axis and the rotation of Earth around the Sun. And the second question being why the different biomes got created. So I told you that the annual mean concentration and quantity and intensity of the temperature for 365 days, it is not same, it keeps on changing, and at the same time the annual mean precipitation is not at all same, it also keeps on changing. That's why different biomes had been creating in our planet Earth. That's why we see the desert life, that's why we see the rainforest life, that's why we see tundra life, etc., etc. Even the regional and local variations in the intensity of temperature and precipitation might also change here. So consider a diagram here as shown in your screen and even in our NCERT textbook. We can say here that this is a graph or a table which expresses itself into two scales, x-axis and y-axis. If we take a look at this picture, it represents us about the biome distribution with the annual temperature and precipitation. From this picture we can say that we have got different biomes, and these biomes are listed as 6 numbers, named as the desert biome, Arctic and alpine tundra biome, grassland biome, temperate forests, coniferous forests, tropical forests. And in this diagram itself, they have given very nicely about the precipitation values and temperature values, and these are important, students. We need to remember these values very nicely and quickly. Right? So here if you consider about the desert, we can say that, observe the diagram, we can say that in the desert 50 centimeter precipitation as a mean average annual precipitation and 20 to 25 degrees Celsius as a mean annual temperature we can see in deserts, which is actually high. That's why the condition of desert is like that. Go for the second one called as the Arctic or alpine tundra. You can observe that the average or mean annual precipitation is somewhere around 5 to 120 centimeter and 0 degree to 2 degrees Celsius as an average or mean annual temperature. go for the third one called as the grassland biome, wherein which we can say that 40 to 100 centimeter is an annual precipitation average value and 20 to 25 degrees Celsius as a mean annual temperature. The same case goes to temperate forests, 60 to 200 centimeter and 7 to 23 degrees Celsius with respect to temperature. Now in case of coniferous forests, 50 to 250 centimeter for the mean precipitation value and 0 to 13 degrees as the mean average annual temperature. We have got the last one, that is tropical forest. If you consider the diagram, it is at the top, the last one, the 150 to 400 centimeter precipitation. Can you imagine? 150 to 400 centimeter precipitation is too much. So that's why tropical forests are very rich in the greenery and plantation and the flora. That's why too much of so many fauna we can see in tropical forests. And even we can see that 20 to 25 degrees Celsius as a mean or average annual temperature conditions also there. So in case of tropical forests, this is the condition, and in case of deserts, that is the condition, and in case of tundra, this is the condition. So we have seen three different variations here. The first one being the desert, wherein which highest temperature you can see for all over the year, and even the precipitation or rain or snow conditions are also very less or no in case of the desert, wherein which if you consider the extreme opposite in case of the tundra, wherein which the precipitation value is somewhere around you can say that 0 to 2 degrees Celsius as the temperature and 5 to 120 centimeter as a precipitation value, which is too good actually. But it is not at all good for the organisms to survive. Very less organisms stay in the Arctic or alpine tundra. But if you consider the temperate forests and coniferous forests, we can say that 60 to 200 centimeter and 50 to 250 centimeter is quite good for the precipitating conditions and even the temperate conditions, right? So this is about the distribution of biomes with respect to the mean annual temperature and even the precipitation conditions. In this chapter, students, we've studied about the environment, we've studied about why the different seasons got created, we've studied about why the different biomes got created, we've studied what actually this particular photo or the diagram of this chapter explains us. It shows us the distribution of the biomes, it shows us the conditions of the biomes, it shows us where actually you see the extreme conditions, and it shows us where actually you see the moderate conditions. Extreme in the sense lower extreme, and extreme in the sense higher extreme. Lower extreme in the sense very lowest temperate conditions and even the precipitate conditions. Higher extreme means of course the higher temperature conditions and even higher precipitative conditions also. While precipitation, remember this one, that precipitation is not only rain, it includes two things, rain and snow. Both the conditions include the precipitation, right? So this is it about this particular topic, students, and I hope you studied, understood, remembered these topics and all these topics. So if I start explaining some of the topics which might go a lot of extent, I'll be repeating those topics which are needed and up to the level of NCERT textbooks only, because there are so many topics with their so many explanations. Whatever that is needed to us, we will be studying only that thing with respect to our PUC syllabus, okay? So if I start explaining about climate, if I start explaining about the weather, if I start explaining about environment, atmosphere, it takes a lot of time. But we don't want extra information, we just want what is required to our need, Okay, so this biome distribution diagram and the definition of and the reasons of different topics I have told you, right? So please do study these topics, and we'll see again and again. We'll see in the next video explaining about the major abiotic factors, wherein which I'll tell you what are those different abiotic factors and what are those different conditions, what happens in abiotic factors, how they are actually influencing us. Anyways, this is Sanjay signing off, and we'll meet once again. I'm giving you this assurity, and stay blessed, stay sharp, and study well.